Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number BB5224-050-600. This is an unusual hinge in the sense that you don't see them very often, but if you have an application that requires a hinge like this, then this will be something that will be the only thing that can solve the problem. What I mean by that is this. This is a full surface hinge that is swing clear as well. So, full surface, first of all, well, let's dissect the part number. We'll take it in that order. First of all, the BB in the part number stands for ball bearings. On a heavyweight hinge like this, meaning that the hinge leaf is 190 thousandths thick, if you put a caliper on this, the hinge leaf is 190 thousandths. Therefore, it's heavyweight. Therefore, it's in a 5-inch size, which we'll get to in a moment. It would have 4 ball bearing packets. Okay. The 5524 is a variety of different means a variety of different things. It altogether means that it is full surface. So when the hinge is attached to the door and frame, everything is mounted to the face of the door and frame. Okay. Your installation would look just like this when the door is closed. You can see that the door leaf has a bit of an offset in it where it's not flush because of that standard inset of a door, 3/32, something in that range, where the door is kicked in ever so slightly. Okay. This leaf would be surface mounted to the face of the door. This leaf would be surface mounted to the face of the jamb. The 5000, the 5224, it means it's full surface. It means it's heavyweight. It means that it is a steel base hinge as well. Okay. If you change that last digit in the part number, forgive me, I'm referring to the link to the template below this video, which gives everything important dimensionally about the item, so we won't go over all that here. But you can see from the table in the lower left-hand area that if you change that last part number, you change the base material. Now the 600, jumping ahead a little bit, in the part number means that it's both steel-based and prime coat finish. So this is intended to be painted. If you go from 4 to 5 in the part number, it becomes stainless steel. If you go from 4 to 6, it becomes, 4 to 5, it becomes a brass or a bronze-based material, depending on the finish. Brass, polished brass, let's say, would have a brass-based material. Oil rub bronze would have typically a bronze-based material. If you go to a 6 in that part number, it would be made of stainless steel. Now the 050, because this doesn't have necessarily a leaf that is important to know the size for the door, the 050 specifically means that the height of the leaf is 5-inch. And that can be seen there in the template as well. Then again, the 600 means 2 things. It means it's prime coat and steel base. You can get this in different architectural finishes and base materials, as we just discussed. So what this hinge is used for is an application, and how you arrive at this, at needing this hinge, is generally not something that you specify from the initial installation of an opening. First of all, the more common need is the swing clear attribute. That means, keep in mind, our door is going to be present right in this area here. That means that when the door is opened at 90 degrees, as I do that, the swing clear removes the door from within the clear opening of the frame. So now my door sets into this area here because I've opened it to 90 degrees towards me, or towards you in that case. Your door would reside here and is cleared out of the opening. The meaning is this: if you had an application, and where I see these all the time, grocery stores, where they open up their doors and push all the carts in, they need to get the doors removed out of the space between the stops of the frame. I'm drawing a little diagram here, because otherwise, with the door hanging into the opening, the swing clear hinge removes the door from outside of this area, the clear area between the stops, so that a typical door, when you open it with a typical hinge, you open it to 90 degrees, part of the door is actually reducing the usable or allowed space clear opening width of the frame. So when you have a swing clear, because the axis of pivoting is no longer over here where a normal hinge would be, it's out here. You move that pivoting axis around the face of the frame, it then allows you to get the door out of the opening, so to speak, so that when you push something through, you're not hitting the door. Commonly where you'll see swing clear applications is condo buildings, lower level, where the dumpsters go in and out. Now, it may not be a full surface hinge. That's a different concept we'll talk about in a moment. But to get the door out of the opening so that you don't destroy the doors pulling the dumpsters in and out is a swing clear concept. The same thing with the grocery store, carts that you need to get in and out of the building. Going back to what I said about it not being specified originally as full surface and swing clear, it's generally not. People might go to a full surface hinge because the standard hinge plates in a door and frame have become destroyed or failed or damaged, so that you can surface mount to the face of the door and frame and continue to work with your existing door and frame. Or you might have a channel iron sort of application where you have a door that's not prepped for hinges whatsoever. And the fact that this is heavyweight and 5-inch tells me that it's something heavy that's going to be installed on here. And while it's not recommended from original perspective, welding of the hinge, because it's a maintenance issue down the road, a lot of people just weld these on. Now, you've got the full surface aspect. Getting into that is usually because you're repairing something, or the other reason of having a door that's not prepped. You're going to have, moving on to the screws, you're going to have machine screws and wood screws. Not that you'd really use wood screws, but you could, for the frame portion of the hinge. Then for the door portion specifically, there are through bolts. And it would stand a test of logic to say that, well, if you've got something so heavy that you're using a hinge, a heavyweight 5-inch hinge, that needs to be through bolted through the door sufficiently. Just screwing through 16 or 18 gauge metal is not a sufficient way to hold the door. Now, the same logic applies really with the frame. If you're going to try to drill and tap a 16 or a 14 gauge or even a 12 gauge frame, 12 gauge would be okay. But I wouldn't want to tap to anything thinner than that because you wouldn't have enough thickness of the material to attach the screw to. New installations have been done with these hinges where it's designed originally because they know that this is long lasting. A surface mount hinge is something that can be easily serviced down the road, and then when the door and frame is ordered originally from the factory, you would specify that you want the inside face of the jamb of the frame to be reinforced for this with 7 gauge or something in that range, but then also the door as well to be reinforced for that. So you're going to get through bolts and grommet nuts for that, okay, for the door portion, and when it's properly reinforced, you'd be able to tighten that down sufficiently and not crush your door face in. I realize that was a mouthful, but this hinge is a proverbial mouthful as well because it's so, so many things are happening at the same time with it. Those are the applications where I see this. Not really, too any, you'll see swing clear hinges all the time in hospital corridors because wheelchairs and all that stuff coming through the openings. Surface mount's a little bit less common, but swing clear is very common, even in bathrooms, especially ADA compliant bathrooms where you need to get full access to the opening for ADA compliance regulations. Bomber makes this hinge in every conceivable available combination of finish, thickness, knuckle. You can get this in 3 knuckle. Security options as well, assuming that this is a hinge that swings out, and it certainly is going to in most cases. You can order these with a non-removable pin, which is a hole that's drilled and tapped in the barrel, and a set screw has been inserted. In the pin, there's a groove cut into it so that when you tap when you loosen the set screw and tap the hinge pin down after installation or hanging of the door, you tighten that set screw up. It's all but impossible to remove that pin. You'd want that in every case when the door is an exterior that you're afraid that someone is going to try to tamper with the hinge pin. If it's a trash room, it's probably not an issue because there's nothing there except a trash chute and then a dumpster. But access to a building, you might have a loading dock scenario that you've got 5-foot by 10-foot doors. and they're hung on heavy because it's a channel iron frame, you would definitely want that loading dock to a hospital, let's say. Very common, needs to be security in that application. Every conceivable variation of this, half surface, half mortise, full surface, size, finish, thickness of the material, base material. The last thing I'd like to point out to you is the Bommer logo, and right above it it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer, number BB5224-050-600, full surface, heavyweight, swing clear, 5-knuckle hinge, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.